News broke this week that innocent, hard-working Somali refugees who came to America just seeking a better life are being wrongfully harassed by the racist DOJ in Minnesota, which means those people are going to need legal representation. What's a poor Somali vineyard owner to do? Well, good news, because we're announcing the grand opening of the new Quality Lawering Center. Now we'll teach you all the rule book for America so you can become a law-talking courthouse person. Yes, we'll teach you how to object in court, how to emotion manipulate a juries, how look up old cases in big law books. Actually, just ChatGPT, but don't tell Judge that. And most importantly, how to wind up with at least 90% of the client's settlement monies. You'll learn all that and much, much more. Well, actually, no, there isn't more, because that's all you need to know at Quality Lawyering Center. Open 2 to 4 a.m. every other Tuesday to fit your schedule at one inconvenient location in Minneapolis. Quality Lawyering Center. Come learn how to defend us when we get raided by the FBI.
Welcome once again to Mark Moseley Show. Yes. Oh, boy. Hey, don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms at Mark Moseley, Moseley, and especially on YouTube. Please give us a follow, a share, a comment, and a like. All four of those things, if you have the time, please do that, because that helps me out tremendously. I realize I have a long way to go to get to monetizing on YouTube, but every subscriber and every comment helps me get there, so I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yes, the story broke this week that the FBI is finally raiding places like the Quality Lawering Center and others. Not a good thing if your name happens to be Ilhan Omar and you just happen to go from being worth $95K to $30 million in the last 5 years. She could be in real trouble. Now, she could be, then again, maybe not. I mean, after all, don't you agree that they're all, to one degree or another, up there in D.C., scamming the system to get rich, on the take, and that they might not want to shine the light of truth on everybody's good time?
I'd like to do more money for you, but first I've got to get your positions on a few issues. Now, where are you on sugar price supports?
Sugar price supports? Where should I be, Terry?
It makes no difference to me. If you're for them, I got money for you from my sugar producers in Louisiana and Hawaii. If you're against them, I got money for you from the candy manufacturers.
You pick.
Let's say 4.
Yeah, 4.
Apologies for the quality there. That was the best I could find for that clip. From the distinguished gentleman, a fabulous, fabulous Eddie Murphy movie. A great movie. Go watch it. It's very nice. Almost a ripoff of Trading Places, though. Because in both movies, it's a similar theme. Eddie plays the small-time con man who gets introduced to the big-time cons, whether it's on Wall Street or in Washington, D.C., but a really, really good look. You know, spend this weekend watching Idiocracy and The Distinguished Gentleman, and by golly, at the end of that marathon, you'll just be ready to blow your brains out. We are so screwed. Between those two films, I'll tell you something. Now, of course, there is the argument to be made in Ilhan Omar's favor. The short version of the explanation of, the benign explanation of her big swing and her reported net worth, it could come down to how assets are classified, valued, and then later corrected under federal disclosure rules. Not necessarily evidence of hiding money or things suddenly disappearing and reappearing. The research that I did said, congressional disclosures are messy by design. Members of Congress must file these periodic financial disclosure reports, but they usually report ranges, not exact balances. Assets are often listed in broad categories such as business interests, joint holdings, and spousal income. But we really do need to delve into that, man. I'm telling you what. Honestly, I wish there was some way that we could have Congress people who have no way to get rich off of it, because it shouldn't be a thing. You should be there to serve the people and not really your own interests. And I'm sure it's been like that since the beginning of our country. But I mean, come on, we're all sick and tired of it, because we're all out here grinding and wearing 4 hats and working 3 shifts and doing what we got to do. And I'm telling you, but initial filings can be high level and imprecise. Values are frequently estimated and not market appraised in real time. Having said all that, it really doesn't pass the smell test, does it? And this doesn't help. Ilhan Omar's fake winery, well, this headline called it fake, has been legally dissolved just 9 days within her amended financial disclosure being filed. Coincidence? I mean, just like the Quality Lawering Center, which changed its licensing status and then officially closed after requesting a termination of its license in January of 2026. Oh no, we're closed now, just in time to be investigated. And don't forget about the other Minneapolis daycare center that reported a break-in in December of last year where the staff said, yeah, somebody, we don't know who, came in overnight and they got into the office somehow and paper records, all of our records are gone. Oh, look at that. It just doesn't look good. But look, we know how this all goes. And whether Ilhan Omar is in any real trouble or not remains to be seen. Now, I'll tell you who is definitely not in any real trouble. And look, I'm not going to sit here and be a clickbait show and go, Comey's going down. Oh, he's going to prison. I saw headlines just today when I was doing my last minute prep for the show that said he was arrested. Well, he wasn't arrested. There was an arrest warrant, and he did turn himself in today. But it's not like he was perp walked or handcuffed and put in the back of a squad car. Watch your head there. That edge is sharp. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. But I don't think, this 86-47 thing, this ain't it, guys. I'm so sorry. Like I say, I'm not doing the clickbait, rage bait thing on this show. So if you want to hear how Comey's going to prison for the rest of his life, go watch one of those shows over there. Listen, over time, those people are going to lose their credibility because, clickbaiting, getting clickbaited into something, doesn't it aggravate you after a while? It does. I know it does me. I get so aggravated with that. I'm like, I clicked on this. I fell for it. And it's a whole bunch of nothing. And it happens all day, every day. Look, there's no way Comey gets convicted of threatening the president's life with that social media post. I mean, first of all, 86, it has a variety of meanings. It's used in restaurants. Hey, 86 the chicken. It could be nefarious to benign and everything in between. So, 86 could mean impeach him, get rid of him, remove him from office. And that's all Comey has to say. Look, we don't live in Minority Report. I'm sorry. We don't. We're not living in a Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise movie here. There's no way to get inside his mind, and you cannot convict him based on what you think he was thinking at the time. And look, maybe nudge, nudge, wink, wink. He really was hoping somebody with better aim so far took a shot at Trump and maybe doesn't miss this time, but you're never going to prove it. So that's why I think this whole thing is really the process is the punishment, as they say on the left. Putting Comey through the whole legal proceeding where you're stressing him out and upending his life and causing all kinds of chaos and costing him maybe millions in legal fees. Maybe that's the scalp that we're going for. Maybe that's the best you're ever going to do. Maybe it's also to send a message. That's right. We are going to go after our political enemies. I always say the media is going to say you're doing it anyway, so you might as well have at it. Chris Saliza said it.
It's impossible to separate both of those indictments, the one in September and the one today, from Donald Trump's absolutely repeatedly expressed belief that the Department of Justice exists to target and punish his political enemies. He has said that on any number of occasions, right? That the reason that these people are there, FBI, DOJ, etc., is because he wants these people who he believes to be guilty Now, again, whether they would actually be guilty in a court of law, we shall see, but to punish these people. So we saw Comey indicted in September 2025, sentenced to drop. We saw Letitia James, another big political enemy in Donald Trump's mind of his, also indicted, charges drop. We've seen John Bolton, a major Trump critic, indicted. And now we see Comey indicted again.
And your point being, oh, you mean Trump's going to use the DOJ to figure out ways to punish the people who tried to end his presidency, end his reputation, put him in prison for life, take all of his money, ruin his kids' lives, maybe even try to take his life? Oh, no, I'm so shocked. Say it's not so. You know, it's not like Trump said of his attorney general, he's my wingman. Eric Holder is my homie. He's my wingman. You know, it's not like he said something like that, like Obama did. So these people need to grow up and toughen up, because Trump's going to be president for another couple of years, and there are more scalps to come. Look, Trump has always been the guy who punches back. Go back and read The Art of the Deal. And in the 80s, when we didn't have no internet and no email, Trump would sit down and write a letter every single time somebody in the New York press said something about him he didn't like. So he's always been that guy. So please don't act surprised when he does it. But this is happening in a country where political violence is on the rise, and that's probably why right now. I mean, I don't think it's any coincidence that you're going after Comey a week after somebody tried to take Trump out again. But political violence is on the rise, and who's responsible? Well, we have the unscientific version, because Stephen A. Smith did an X poll in which he asked, whose rhetoric has contributed most to the current climate of political violence in America? President Trump, Republicans, the media, or Democrats? Don't get ahead of me. We will get there. President Trump, final tallies here. 55,589 votes, 1.1 million views, and the poll ended on the 29th at 8:03 a.m. And the final results, Republicans, 1.2% out of 100. President Trump, 20.6%. The media, 33.5%. And Democrats, 44.7%. Now, what you were already thinking, why are the media and the Democrats in two different categories? I know. They're one and the same. The media and the Democrats, when you put their two numbers together, it exceeds 75%. So 75% of America, according to Stephen A. Smith's poll, thinks that mostly it's the left inspiring political violence. And of course, the left will tell us that most political violence is right-wing. No, you've got it backwards. It's all right-wing. And we've got the studies to prove it. But hang on, what about those studies? Take a look.
The problem is when you dig down into that data, it is so deeply flawed. Let me just give you a few examples, okay? The Prosecution Project, supposed to list all of the acts of political violence in America, does not list Charlie Kirk's assassination, does not list Trump's assassination attempts, does not list any George Floyd violence. 24 Americans lost their lives during those riots, not listed. But every white nationalist who's a drug dealer, that gets listed. So they list 33 white Aryan Nation people who had a meth lab. This is political violence because they happen to be white nationalists. All right, Cato does not list the 9/11 victims, does not list any George Floyd violence. Center for Strategic and International Studies, where does it get its data from? The ADL, highly partisan, and the Southern, which just was revealed to have allegedly been funding the very racists that they were supposed to be fighting. And finally, I just have to mention this, the Center for Strategic and International Studies has in its methodology section, it says all anti-Semitism is right wing. Any attacks on Jews or Jewish institutions, they reclassified it. If it was in the name of Palestinians, they reclassified it as ethno-nationalist. So by their definition, there's no such thing as left-wing anti-Semitism, which we all know is just nonsense.
That's Batya Ungar Sargon. I hope I'm saying her name right. She is a pundit and commentator on News Nation and made that revealing claim. So yes, it's easy to claim that right-wing violence is the real problem if the data is flawed. And she seems to have laid out there that, yeah, the data is flawed. They don't even include 9/11. That's going to skew the whole thing completely, because if you add up the total number of Americans dead from political violence, if you were to include 9/11, you'd get a very, very different result from what they clearly wanted to get. But, the Southern Poverty Law Center story is everywhere. Right-wing political violence in America apparently is so widespread that you had to prop it up with money from leftists. That's the takeaway. That has got to be the wildest thing that has happened this year. And I saw this headline: Southern Poverty Law Center's high-profile donors like Soros and Clooney stay mum after nonprofit indicted over alleged $3 million hate group informant scheme. Now, why would you be silent? Why, if you're George Clooney? Why they were taking your money and giving it to the very people that you hate, that we all hate. I mean, let's face it. They were giving it to those people. I hate right-wing political groups because they make the rest of us look stupid. Because the people on the left see a KKK hooded Klan member, and they see Mark Moseley, and they see no distinction between the two of us. We're both hate-filled, jerks who should be silenced. But why, George Clooney, would you be silent if they're taking your money and giving it to the very people that you hate? Imagine you're George Clooney, and you agree to do a cameo in a film, and you shoot your scene. Let's say you work one day and you walk away. Well, the movie comes out 6 months later, and your footage that you shot has been edited into the David Duke story. And oh, by the way, you were playing his lawyer the whole time. Wouldn't you be upset, George Clooney, and extremely vocal about that? Why aren't people like George Clooney speaking out? Surely he didn't know that he was actually secretly funding the KKK so as to keep the narrative of hate speech alive. And what does that do to absolutely destroy the left's narrative that they oppose hate speech? You were funding it. You were funding it. I'm telling you, the Babylon Bee has been all over this story. Here's one of my favorite angles on this. The headline, and I love this picture because that's just typical. After losing SPLC funding, KKK forced to buy robes off Temu. Montgomery, Alabama, following their sudden loss of funding from the Southern Poverty Law Center, members of the Ku Klux Klan were reportedly forced to purchase their iconic pointy right robes on the discount website Temu. Or Temu. I don't know which one it is. All I know is I tried to buy a 1971 Dodge Charger, and it was $1,000. And when it showed up at my house, it was this big. So, with several fraud charges being filed against the Southern Poverty Law Center for supporting the KKK and similar organizations, racist hate groups across the country express concern over their finances going forward. Bad news, boys. The SPLC money's all dried up, said KKK member Stockton Holmgren. Why is he Southern? Boy, if that's not a stereotype. What, there are no Northern KKK members? We got to cut costs for a bit, which is why we just ordered our first shipment of robes from Temu. They might be a little snug, but we're going to have to make it work for right now. The SPLC was indicted by a grand jury on 11 charges and faces allegations that it paid extremist groups to conduct hate crimes. The sudden loss of funding has left several planned KKK events in the lurch. We can't afford to ride around on real horses anymore. We're going to have to go with the stick horses for now, said Holmgren. It's just temporary until the SPLC can get back on track. All right, Bill, open that box of Temu robes. Let's see what we got. Uh-oh. At publishing time, the KKK had decided to hold a bake sale to raise money for better robes.
And now, Shallow Thoughts by Al Ibril.
Remember, immigrants built this country. This vile, blood-soaked fascist empire, greedy, racist, gun-worshipping, cancerous, warmongering dumpster fire of a country. Immigrants built this.
Welcome back to Mark Moseley Show. Please subscribe and share and like and comment on YouTube. Do all the things. You know the thing. Yeah. Who's been talking about political violence? We have. And who's been stoking the flames? Everybody else, not me.
Let's extinguish him for good.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
We're going to fight it in the courts, and we're going to fight it in the streets.
When they go low, we're going to bury them below the Capitol. That's what we're going to do.
We take them to the mud and choke them out.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
We're walking down a damn different path. We're fighting fire with fire. And we're going to punch these sons of bitches in the mouth.
By taking behind the gym and beat the hell out of them.
Now punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some power.
Fight back, punch back, and make sure that they stay down. And you know what? Kick them when they're down, because they deserve it.
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching.
We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
We are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out.
Like we're in a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
Well, I am here to tell you, not only are we going to punch back, but we about to beat you down.
Look, it doesn't help when our president, a president of the United States, says things like these direct quotes. We're going to punish our enemies, and we're going to reward our friends who stand with us. Or how about, I don't want to quell anger. I think people are right to be angry. I'm angry. There's more. I want you to argue with them and get in their face. We talk to these folks so I know whose ass to kick. If they win the House, there's going to be a lot of hand-to-hand combat up here on Capitol Hill. And that means that we are going to just have hand-to-hand combat up here on Capitol Hill. And finally, the quote, if they bring a knife to the fight, we bring a gun. Yes, Donald Trump said all of that and more, and so he should be run out of town on a rail for stoking the flames of, what's that? Oh, I've just been told that I just read a bunch of quotes from President Obama. Oh, well, he's not the president now. He's not the president, Mark. Obama's not the president, Mark. What about ism? What about ism? You think you're so funny. You read a bunch of Obama quotes and you did them as Trump to try to fool us. Ha ha. Oh, that's so clever. I can see the comments on YouTube now. But let's touch on the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Speaking of political violence, more left-wing political violence. So, of course, we need to downplay it and wave it away, because it's inconvenient that he was a liberal. And here we go again. So, of course, it must have been, you guessed it, it's all a hoax. Well, sure, it was a hoax because you very desperately need it to have been a hoax. Here's Rosie O'Donnell claiming so.
And it's so good when you don't want to watch the news about fake assassination attempts or what they're calling an assassination attempt. Somebody decided it shouldn't be a high security event with everyone in the cabinet there. and the president and the vice president and the first lady and, Congress people, people in the cabinet. Somebody decided that, they didn't need a lot of security. And who was that decided they didn't need a lot of security? I wonder who decided that and when and how they decided that with all those people there.
Okay, Rosie makes some points there, but overall, not a hoax. Look, when you have a conspiracy, it's very important that you kill the shooter. You can't have that kind of loose end hanging around. The shooter would have to die, and he's not. He's still alive. Not like in Butler when they let him sit up there on the roof for half an hour and, get off a few rounds at Trump, and then they took him out so he couldn't talk about the voices he was hearing in his head caused by the psychotropic drugs that he's been prescribed. And by the way, a bunch of right-leaning podcasters playing again the clickbait game. They took what Rosie O'Donnell said and framed it this way. Rosie O'Donnell has psychotic on-camera meltdown calling Trump assassination fake. I don't know I've seen psychotic meltdowns before, and that was a psychotic meltdown on Xanax. If it was, because she didn't. Look, stop it. Stop it. Everything is not, Sometimes people say things and, you might disagree with them, but it's not the end of the world. Stop doing clickbait. Again, it just makes people angry over time and they start to tune out. And that was a big podcaster that did that too. I saw it. Everybody's doing clickbait. Oh, by the way, real quick before we move on, here's another thing that Rosie O'Donnell said about billionaires.
I think with the praise of billionaires and everybody thinking that's a great thing to be a billionaire, it should be embarrassing to be a billionaire. It should be embarrassing to have the ability to help society and choose not to. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand. How much can you have?
Now, see, to me, Rosie O'Donnell, I look at Rosie O'Donnell and I go, oh, she's probably pretty rich, right? I mean, you have the means to pick a country that you'd like to live in and go live there and raise kids there and have no discernible serious income happening. I checked her on IMDb. She's got nothing going on right now, which means she has a bunch of serious money stashed away. And that makes her the envy of every single person below her, on the financial ladder. I think millionaires should shut up about billionaires. It's just stop. Don't play that game, because to poor people, you might as well have a B instead of an M next to your name. Because it's all relative. I know you and Oprah both had talk shows and now she's a billionaire and you're not, and you're probably pretty pissed about that. But take the crappy cards life dealt you, Rosie O'Donnell, with your millions and stop. You're going to have to take your bath in the grocery store champagne, I guess. Or maybe even the sparkling apple cider. But you're not poor, so don't. Meanwhile, everybody's on Jimmy Kimmel's case. And I really dislike what Jimmy Kimmel is saying about Trump. I dislike the jokes. I'm going to be real clear on that because I'm going to say something now that you're not going to like. And that is this. Don't try to censor Jimmy Kimmel. I know as a right-wing nut job, I'm supposed to say certain things. And one of them is that Jimmy Kimmel must be silenced. But look, I don't want to go down that road. Now, we can dislike and be disgusted by Jimmy Kimmel's jokes without calling for him to be censored. Jimmy Kimmel's speech, Jimmy Kimmel's joke about Melania Trump having the glow of an expectant widow is exactly the kind of vile, disgusting, I don't agree with it language that the First Amendment was created for. So jerks like him could spew hate speech every day. And none of us are forced to watch it, just like you don't have to watch this show if you disagree with me. It's only hate speech if you have to listen to it. That's the way I measure it. I want to live in that country where we can speak out against the powerful, including the President of the United States. I want to live in that country where I can say that Barack Obama and Joe Biden deserve prison for pulling off Watergate 2.0. The more we all tolerate Jimmy Kimmel, the more free we all remain to say what we want to say when it comes to political speech. So I think Trump should just leave Kimmel alone. As a capitalist, Trump ought to understand, let the marketplace decide Kimmel's fate. Look, Trump, you've had marketplace hits and misses. You know how this works. You know, you put out a bad product, people aren't going to buy it. And eventually, no one's going to watch Kimmel's show, except for a handful of people who also watch MS Now. But even his wife, even Melania Trump, wants Kimmel gone. And I like this because it gives me a chance to do my Melania Trump impression, which I recently discovered. The secret to Melania Trump is you just do Andy Kaufman's Lodka character from Taxi.
There's only one thing you need in life and to make you happy, and that is friends.
Thank you very much. So Melania Trump issued a strong public condemnation of Jimmy Kimmel's joke, calling it hateful and violent rhetoric intended to divide our country. That statement was posted in connection with Kimmel's expected widow joke controversy and amplified through public channels through her press office. She also urged ABC to take a stand.
Thank you very much.
But honestly, the more coverage that the Trumps give Kimmel, the more they are keeping Kimmel's name in the news, and that translates into ratings that are keeping his show on life support. Just don't do it. Play the long game. Don't go for the quick dopamine high. Well, everybody, of course, is talking about the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and people became obsessed with this one photo that is on the screen now. And I saw reactions to this from the left and from the right. From the right, people are saying that this photo tells you everything about the men in Trump's circle. You can tell everything about a man by how he instinctively responds when it hits the fan. No time to think, no rehearsal, just reflex. Stephen Miller moves on top of his pregnant wife to shield her with his body. Pete Hegseth stands over his wife, surveying the room for threats while leaning over to protect her. No hesitation, no panic, no running for the exits. They covered the people they love. These are the men the media calls dangerous. They are the men the left calls fascists. And when the bullets started flying from yet another radicalized leftist, they didn't flinch. Character isn't what you say, it's what you do when the shooting starts. But then people on the left look at that exact same photo or photos like that, and the exact opposite claim pops up. Does photo show Stephen Miller using his pregnant wife as a human shield at the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Snopes had to debunk this. Snopes, which is a lot less partisan than it used to be. They're really Snopes has really been, I think, recently been trying to up their game and come off as nonpartisan. And they're doing a pretty good job of it, too. The claim, an authentic image, shows White House advisor Stephen Miller using his pregnant wife as a human shield during a shooting at the 2026 White House Correspondents Association dinner. Snopes said nopes. Reminds me of that pivotal scene in the Stephen King movie where the guy is able to see the future. Christopher Walken play. I don't know why I can't think of the movie right now. But the pivotal scene is the guy who's running for president, his chances get ruined because an assassin goes to take a shot at him, and he literally holds up this woman's baby in front of him to shield himself. What was that movie? Oh my gosh, it's going to drive me crazy. Anyway, yeah, there it is. That's the one. Anyway, Snopes says, in the aftermath of the shooting at the White House Correspondents Association dinner on April 25th, social media users alleged a photo showed Stephen Miller, Deputy White House Chief of Staff, using his pregnant wife, Katie, as a human shield. A White House spokesperson told Snopes that Stephen Miller was shielding her and that the picture in question showed him standing between the suspect's location and Katie Miller. You can see whatever you want to see. That's fine. CNN actually helped debunk this because CNN did a whole map. They mapped the whole thing out. And so from the location of the suspect, CNN confirms that you got suspect over here, then the Secret Service guy, then Stephen Miller, and then his wife. So any bullet that the suspect were to have fired in their direction would have had to travel through the two men first to strike Miller's wife. But again, 1/3 of the country would never agree with that. But for the days when someone tried to kill the president and late night talk show host didn't try to divide us, didn't say gross things. Here's a time travel back to 1981 when Johnny Carson showed us all how to do it.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure that all of you here and most of you watching tonight understand why we delayed this program for 24 hours. Because of the incredible events of yesterday, that old adage, the show must go on, seemed relatively unimportant. The Academy, ABC Television, and all of us connected with the show felt because of the uncertain outcome, as of this time yesterday, it would have been inappropriate to stage a celebration. But the news today is very good, as you know. The president is in excellent condition at last reports. He's been conducting business.
And Carson was a Democrat the whole time. You would have never known that because he ran his show like a business. What do I always say? Show business. Remember, it's a business. Don't piss off half of your customers. But Carson wasn't partisan. And Letterman was already on the air at that time. And of course, SNL was on the air. But the whole thing was handled with class. In fact, I have some of the jokes. I have scripts of some of the jokes that Carson told in those days, which is fantastic because, once again, for the second week in a row, I have a legitimate excuse to do my Johnny Carson impression. So here we go. And now, here's Johnny. Da, 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 da. Wow, you're a great crowd. It's great to be here. And, of course, we're following the news now, and the president is doing very well. He's already asked for a script rewrite. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, 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 ho. No, doctors say he's improving daily, which in Washington means he's already running for re-election. Ho, 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 ho. These are not that funny, Ed. But anyway, doctors say Reagan is improving, while network anchors say ratings are doing even better. Ho, ho, ho. Ho, 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 ho. All right, Ed, dial it back some. And finally, the White House assures us that the president is in good spirits, although they also assured us inflation was temporary.
And now, a global warming minute with Al Gore.
I'm Al Gore, and you are causing global warming with your gas. Did you know that flatulence is mostly carbon dioxide? Did you ever wonder why I'm bloated and have a pained expression all the time? It's because I'm desperately trying to hold it in to save the earth, while you go about willy-nilly, sputtering like a motorboat and melting the ice caps. Keep tooting, and pretty soon when someone asks, "Who died in here?" the answer will be all of us. Remember, every time you crack one off, the ice shelf in Antarctica is cracking off too, and polar bears, harp seals, and caribou perish. So hold in your gas like Al Gore does, and you can save our animal friends from a certain... Oh, dadgummit. I just killed a baby seal.
This has been a Global Warming Minute with Al Gore.
Welcome back to Mark Moseley Show. We played that one because the science is never settled. So it's time now for The Science is Settled with Al Gore. I hate this segment. I know you do. The thing that people like Al Gore have been saying for decades is that what was going to kill us all, well, was, flatulence, right? CO2 in the air. Well, now, thanks to technology, it may help save us all. What comes out of the back end of us is actually useful. Because a pilot study employing a new method for treating sewage sludge efficiently created renewable natural gas while slashing in half the cost of treating sewage. A Washington State University team described the process this week in Chemical Engineering Journal, touting it as a way to help communities sustainably clean up their waste while providing renewable natural gas for their energy needs. Listen, I think this was like one of those things where it's like, this was just a matter of time. How can we figure out how to extract the gas from human waste and use it for energy? When the researchers treated sludge collected from a nearby wastewater facility, they produced 200% more renewable natural gas compared to current practices. Who knew poop was so potent? They cut the cost of disposal by nearly 50%. This technology basically converts up to 80% of sewage sludge into something valuable, according to a professor at WSU's School of Chemical Engineering and Bioengineering, one of the authors of the paper. The renewable gas can be used in the same way as fossil fuel-based natural gas for electricity generation, home heating, or transportation without all the heavy climate imprint left by fossil fuels. So hold on there, Bill Gates. Maybe don't try to reduce the population with your mosquito-borne vaccines to make us all sterile. Maybe hold off on that master plan, evil genius. Wastewater treatment facilities use large amounts of electricity to clean up municipal wastewater, making up between 3 and 4% of the total electricity demand in the United States. They're often the largest user of electricity in small communities. So now this is really good news because they can offset their costs while producing natural gas. Yes, human waste can make natural gas, so get out there and poop it up real good to save the planet. Right, Al Gore? Right, Al Gore? Oh, shut up, Mark Moseley. You're so stupid. Just shut your stupid flapping pie hole that you use to eat pie, you dummy. Meanwhile, AI is still the devil, even though I use AI, in fact, in preparation for this show. A group of families in Canada filed multiple federal lawsuits against OpenAI and CEO Sam Altman, alleging that ChatGPT played a role in a tragic mass shooting in British Columbia. You might remember this story. Well, it's gone to the next level with the actual lawsuits. The shooter allegedly had extended conversations with ChatGPT months before the attack. Plaintiffs argue that OpenAI was warned internally about concerning violent content and failed to escalate it or report it to the authorities. They claim this failure contributed to the eventual attack that killed 9 people. Now, of course, this wasn't AI actively doing anything. It was more of a passive role that it played, but human misuse of AI tools. But listen, companies need to get a handle on this. Now, I say all of this while this week I dipped my toe in the water of having my first actual conversation with a chatbot. Now, up till now, I have used AI only as like an assistant, like go look up instead of Google. Because the problem that I have with Google is like 3 pages of ads before you actually find the thing that you're looking for. And you don't have that. And it saves time and it saves a lot of hassle if you just go right to an AI chatbot and go, hey, where can I find this color touch-up paint for my car? Which I did just today. And it's like, here, this is the website that you go to. Whereas if I'd done that in Google, I would have had 3 pages of ads to scroll through. But I got into it with what you might describe as a conversation with Grok, as I had just finished watching The Maltese Falcon for about the 45th time, or was it the 47th time? And we had asked it a question about the movie, and then I started talking about the character of Sam Spade, and I began to compare Spade to President Trump. And the line from the movie about
the man's partner's killed, he's supposed to do something about it. It doesn't make any difference what you thought of him. He was your partner, and you're supposed to do something about it.
I get the loyalty to Miles, but he was sleeping with the man's wife. Well, Grok replies, that's the contradiction that makes Spade such a great character. You're right to call it out. Spade is sleeping with his wife's partner, and he doesn't even particularly like Miles Archer. In the book and the movie, it's pretty clear their partnership was rocky, and Spade had zero respect for Miles as a detective or a man. I said, sometimes I compare Sam Spade's character to Trump, in that A, he's usually a couple of steps ahead of everybody else, and B, even though he's not squeaky clean, by far, he's got a semblance of a moral code that so many others in politics don't seem to have. And the bot replied, that's an interesting comparison you've drawn. Sam Spade and Trump do share a surface level archetype. The street smart operator who's always thinking several moves ahead, thrives in chaos, and refuses to play by the polite rules everyone else pretends to follow. Spade constantly lies, manipulates, sleeps with the wrong people, sizes up everyone's weaknesses instantly. All of this sound familiar? Yet he won't cross one self-imposed line. He turns Bridget in even though it costs him personally. It's a ragged, self-serving code, but it's his. And it separates him from the pure opportunists all around him. You can see why the parallel appeals. Both figures project this aura of, I see through the BS that the others are drowning in. And both seem willing to be ruthless while claiming some deeper consistency that their opponents lack. I'm curious what specifically feels like the moral code part to you when you think of Trump in this light. It's asking me questions now to follow up and keep the conversation going. I said, it's just the contradiction that he's willing to break some rules, but then there are other areas where Trump seems to have some sense of lines that are not to be crossed. And I get that Sam Spade is only looking out for himself. Sometimes Trump feels that way to me. Other times I feel like he's actually trying to do the right thing on a grand scale. Grok responds, that's a fair and nuanced way to put it. The contradiction you're describing is exactly what makes both Spade and Trump compelling and divisive figures. Many observers see a pattern with Trump, a willingness to smash through political norms, conventions, and rules that others treat as sacred, while still holding on firm to some bigger lines like national sovereignty, economic protectionism, skepticism of endless foreign wars, resistance to what he sees as institutional corruption. To some, this looks like an America First code. To others, it looks like a transactional self-interest that sometimes overlaps with larger principles. Most humans are like this, according to this chatbot, to some degree, a patchwork of self-interest, principles, instincts, and contradictions. And that was my conversation with Grok about Sam Spade, the Maltese Falcon, and Donald Trump. But in the end, the bird was fake, just like the fake news media, making up all of their fake stories. If I made a falcon, you would know because it would be gold-plated. Gold-plated Falcons by Trump, now available at Trump.com. Yes, it's the Trump signature Falcon collection. It comes in gold, platinum, and a third thing that nobody knows really what it is, but it must be great. Well, it's time for some good news. We love the good news on this show. On March 24th, Jessica Johnson was hiking with her border collie, Molly, in the remote Arahura Valley in New Zealand. And they both fell near a waterfall and went over the fall, 180 feet. Molly and Jessica both went over the falls. Jessica survived the fall but was seriously injured. Emergency services were called, and she was airlifted out by helicopter. At the time of the rescue, Molly, the collie, was nowhere to be found. And given the height of the fall and the terrain, the assumption was made that she likely hadn't survived. Despite that, one helicopter crew member said she had a gut feeling that the dog might still be alive. That intuition led to continuing searching in the days after the accident. And this wouldn't be the good news unless there was some good news. And sure enough, about a week later, Molly was found alive in that same general area. She had survived the fall and endured several days alone in the wilderness, probably by staying near the river and the water there and navigating the terrain very carefully. When they found her, Molly was weak and dehydrated, but she was alive. A 180-foot fall, that's massive, and that's quite often fatal for either whether you're human or a dog. And that terrain in the west coast of New Zealand is very, very rugged. And it sounds almost impossible, but when you look at the fact that Molly was a border collie, well, border collies are kind of built for this kind of situation, this kind of environment, because they're not just pets, they're working dogs, and they're bred for uneven terrain, high endurance. They can cover long distances without tiring out. They're used to problem solving under stress. And the story goes on to say that most dogs die from dehydration before starvation. So if Molly stayed near water and drank regularly, that by itself could keep her going for many days. A healthy dog can go several days to over a week with little or no food. She probably ate small things like bugs or maybe a carcass of some kind, or just simply conserved her energy by not moving a lot. Either way, she was found and has been reunited with her owner. It's an amazing story, and sounds like it'd probably make a pretty good movie. And let's wrap up the show now with something stupid, with our big stupid doofus of the week. You're a big stupid doofus. No, you are. No, you. Well, people aren't as easy to manipulate these days as they used to be. Blame social media if you'd like to. Blame societal norms. Why, in my day, I'll tell you something, in my day, if a loud, angry man burst into a business screaming, "Everybody get down on the floor," if an angry man burst into a building screaming, "Everybody get down on the floor," everybody would get down on the floor. Well, not these days. The customers at the nail salon in the Atlanta area were unimpressed, barely looked up from their phones, and no one got down on the floor.
Everybody get down! Give me all the money! If you got the boxes! Give me all the money! Get down!
Here's the video released by Atlanta police showing the man, his hand in a handbag. He went into this nail salon and started shouting, "Everybody get down, give me all your money." Customers looked unimpressed. They stared at him and barely moved or changed their expressions. Eventually, the robber realized that he's not going to get anywhere with these people. Stunned that trying to rob people armed with only sheer bravado does not work, he looks around confused and then turns and walks out the door. And see, the problem was the man burst through the door swinging his weapon of choice, a purse. Yeah, he did the whole, I got my hand inside of something, you know, like the old hand in the pocket bit where I could have a gun in here. You don't know. It might not just be my finger shaped in the form of a gun. It could be an actual gun. And look, we live in a society now where every other thing you see on the street is just a social media, someone's filming something for Instagram or TikTok. Why, just this week, 2 teenagers drove a riding lawnmower into a Target store in what they thought was going to be a hilarious social media stunt. So that's what you're working with, guy. when you storm into a store demanding everybody get down and give me all your money while wielding a very intimidating lady's handbag. Oh, look out! He's got a clutch!
Everybody get down!
Well, don't forget to subscribe to my channel on YouTube to get more, and I put up comedy sketches from these shows so you can watch those as well. That's the show. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube. My show's also on Rumble. Check my Facebook page for a link to the show on Rumble. Until next time, may God bless you with health, joy, and wisdom.